Computer got up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everyone, the world literally, because I have a guest today who I met by chance, made a post in a Facebook group. The person was like, "Hey, I know someone who could be in your podcast." I was like, "Who?" And they're like, "Her name's Billie. What does she do? She's like the top financial coach in all of Australia." All of Australia? Yeah. And she got like 5 businesses. Oh my God, you're kidding me. I'm not. I'll do the intro call. And here we are today with Billie Sharp, who's a business coach, a marketer, and a mom, and a great daughter and wife, and a whole bunch of stuff that I don't know. So I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna let Billie from Australia, all the way in Australia. That you're the today, Billie. You broken a record. You're the farthest guest, my first international person guest on the podcast so far. You should feel special, like real
I
special.
do feel special, and I love like connecting with Americans. I honestly, I do. I think it's so great, and our economies are so different but so intertwined. And I think like
Yeah,
it's really important to understand both. Well, it is for us. It's not so important for you guys to understand both. Um, but yeah, just if you listen to like any real successful Australian entrepreneur, we all know the American market extremely well.
oh, we're just importing everything. You get this. You get this. You guys are like,
Yeah,
well, in America,
basically.
you don't want to. Great place to do business, but outside of that, I'm not going to talk about politics because good God, it's insane. But yeah, no, so that's cool to know. Yeah, because we're talking about this before we had you on. Like the interest rates with your mortgages over there versus here. And I was gonna say this too, like it is intertwined because everything's globally connected now. I feel like, let me know if you agree with this. That really happened with COVID. I don't know how or why, but I feel like when that happened, it's like everything became connected economically, and it was like everyone's going through the same thing right now. Like everyone's experiencing the same thing. It's like, yeah, the culture may be different, but like we're all going through it. I'm like, we're reaching a new like point of oneness. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, we're all connected here. We're all real. This is real. Like, what do we do? Is this a
I, I
really
think
interesting
I
time?
think like actually we were connected well before that, right? I think the
Yeah.
real difference with COVID is we had the internet and social media was so big. It is so big
Yeah.
that it was a different type of connection. So the economic markets have always fluctuated based on like the Western world, right? So if you
Yep.
guys have something wrong, we have something wrong. If we have something wrong, you guys have something wrong.
Right.
So um and so that's always happened, but when COVID happened and it was so publicly available on social media, and also because now with news channels, right, there was a time, if we looked back even like to the GFC, right, we had social media then,
Hmm.
but the news sites were still geared that it was what the media was controlling,
Yep.
whereas now further down the track, we get a different type of media now, right? So it's a whole new news cycle for us, and you really
Yeah.
get to choose what you want to listen to and what you don't. So I think like although it might feel like COVID brought us together, I feel like it was like that before, we just didn't realize it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Like we were kind of aware of it. Yeah, it's all we're globally connected. And COVID was like, no, you are. And this is how you are. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, we really are. No wonder like
Yeah.
nowadays it's like the economy goes down. In the past, it was like economy does not, if economy sucks in one country, you can leave. There'd be some impact, but like you'd be fine. But now it's like if this happens, that happens, affects here, boom, 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 boom. It's like it's all one thing going on, not just like, all right,
Yeah.
you leave one place, you're going to experience similar problems in another place. It's like you're not getting away from it. You got to stand it.
No. I
Gotcha.
don't think so. I think, yeah, I think that's right. And like, it's interesting because, like, obviously, and every country has a problem with politics, right? But again, I think maybe we always have, but it's just that we're starting to realize it now.
Yeah.
More information, there's more information available to us now than ever before.
It's
So, and
yeah.
people are like, well, why do you want to know that information? I'm like, well, why wouldn't you want to know that information? Honestly.
It's kind of good to know what's going on, so like versus thinking like living, was it ignorance is bliss, living in one reality that's not really happening, you think it is, and it's like what's really happening. And I think that scares a lot of people too on
And I
some
think too,
level.
like, because I always say, like, people, like obviously there's lots of different things I could complain about, roads in my local community, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I never do. And people are like, why don't you ever complain? You could use your position of power to really be heard. I'm like, yeah, because at the end of the day, if you look at anyone that has true power has money, right? Because they're like, if you don't want to fix the road, I'll just fix the road with my own money. I don't care.
Right.
So that's what they do, right? And I think this is what is so great about Elon Musk, because he's out there and he's like, all right, you want to take away like $44 billion? That's fine. I still have money.
Yeah, exactly. I'm doing my own thing. Boom. And that's where it comes from.
Yeah,
That's
he's like,
use money.
whatever, like
Right.
just living his own life. It's just like, oh, okay. Like,
He's,
oh,
I think
I don't like what Twitter stands for. I'll just buy that company for 60 billion. Like,
exactly. And I feel like he's like the real life Iron Man. Like we're watching real life Iron Man, like, oh, he's gonna do it, and like he does it, and he fights back, and it's really funny to watch him just like see stuff, and you're like, I'm like, good for him. Like, I'm glad he said that. Like, it's insane, but
but
he,
like, and I love it so much. And then I think like you've got to look back to like when he had no money, right? He wasn't out there politically like, oh, I don't like this, or I don't. He just shut up. He just shut up, got his work done, and now he has money, and he's like, oh, well, I'll just do what I want. That's fine. I can. He was doing what
exactly.
he wanted before. He was just minding his own business.
That's true. He really was. No one knew. Now he's like, I'll say what I want. I'm gonna do because now he's such a big public figure. It's like no matter what he does, you're gonna hear about it. So
Yeah, and it's not even like he does a lot of talks or really promotes himself or anything like that. He's actually a pretty private guy, and yet we all know who he is. We think we know so much about him, but like my husband loves him, and he was watching this interview the other day, and he's like, he's got 3 of his kids there walking around SpaceX like on the ground, like 3 toddlers. I was like, oh yeah, great.
yeah, I can do that. What are you gonna do about it? Nothing. That's right.
Nothing,
I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep
exactly.
going. You can blame it. Okay, great. I'm gonna keep
Yeah,
going.
yeah.
But let's back up a bit. Who are you? Who is Billie Sharp? And like, I hate this question. Why should people listen to you? Why should I listen to Billie Sharp?
Yeah.
Why is this
No,
important?
you should actually listen to me, and I'll tell you why.
You should listen to me.
Like
That's the
super
most direct
confident
answer. I'm
about
like, okay, I didn't say that. She
it.
did. Ooh,
Yeah.
that's fire.
Oh,
It's
you
gonna be
should,
spicy.
because yeah, so like my background, I don't really have like this fancy background, which I think this is the key, right? So I grew up in housing commission, so I don't know if it's called the same over there. So like where it's like government housing.
Okay, yeah, like government housing, almost like Section 8 over here. Basically, a certain income level, the government
Yeah.
sponsor provides quite a bit. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I had a single mom, and then so she raised me. I went to a public school. There was like no fancy schooling or anything like that. And the town I grew up in only had 3,000 people. So it was like a really, really small town.
Jeez.
Nothing there. The closest like city, which only had, I think, like 30,000 people, was 2-hour drive. So to
Wow.
get to like a capital city, which is Brisbane, was 10-hour drive, right? So it was like a really long way.
Oof, that's a
I grew
flight.
up in like nowhere. And then like I had a really rough childhood. I was physically abused, sexually abused. My mum ended up actually leaving and moving to live in Indonesia when I was 16, 15, 16. So I was forced to like move out on my own.
Oh,
Um, so then I still went to school, and I was doing like a secondary type of qualification in business, and I was working 3 jobs.
wow.
Um, but that was my childhood, and I think this is why it's so important and so humbling for people, because like I literally came from nothing. Like I know there's people out there that have a worse situation than I do. I'm not saying like my situation was terrible. I still had a really lovely childhood.
Yeah.
um but at the same time, I'm like, I wasn't fed anything. Like there was every reason for me to not get those opportunities or not look at them as opportunities. And it's really interesting when I talk to anybody that I went to school with. There's a big drug pandemic, like epidemic out there at the moment, and like
Mm,
so many of the people I went to school with are caught up in that. And it's really surprising, because like it's very like humbling for me when I talk to them, because they're like, oh, we all follow you on social media. I'm
wow.
like, really? Like I didn't even know. They're like, yeah, you're so inspiring. I was like, right, because they're like, you just lived like we lived. Like how are you doing what you do now? And I think And then from that, I just kept working, and I worked my way up through different businesses, and just worked really hard. Like I was working 60, 80 hours a week in a corporate world, in male dominated fields too. So it wasn't like super easy.
Yeah.
And then I ended up like actually went to America. I was in an RV driving around for 8 weeks, with my daughter and my husband. And like, I felt like we were both working so hard and getting nowhere. Like we had money and we had a house and we had things, but we weren't happy. Like we weren't happy with each other. We weren't like, we were on this amazing trip around America and neither of us were like super happy. You could just tell. And so I started writing my business plan in the RV while I was driving around
Is it
America.
plan code for a breakup plan? I'm like, what's my
No, I was
business
like, yeah,
plan? Sure it is. I'm gonna,
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
And I felt like when I got back, I would go back to work and I would start my business like on the side. And then I got back and my heart just wasn't in my job anymore. And my husband was like, you just need to quit. And I was like, like, what about the money? Like, we can't afford that. Like, we
Yeah.
couldn't. And he said, well, we've got a little bit of savings. Like, we'll get by. We'll sacrifice and we'll get by. And I was like, okay, cool. So I quit my job, which was really not easy for me. I literally cried for like 3 days because I'd never not worked. And I like thought, I just looked at it as not working, like going out and being this entrepreneur. I was like, you're just not working. Like, but I swear I worked so bloody hard. Like,
Yeah.
I was like constantly, I worked hard, so hard. And I was listening to everyone else, right? Listening to all the experts and made no money. Like
Wow.
literally 4 months. Yeah, I don't have like any, like my initial start in business is not good. And like I was spending, like I'd paid all these experts. The job that I was working for, like when I finished, I should have been paid out about $25,000, and I have still to this day not seen like a cent of that money.
Oh,
None of it.
wow.
So we didn't get that money. And then we are basically just living off our savings. My husband was trying to work more hours to get more money in. And yeah, for the first 4 months, I just didn't make any sales. And then one night in a taxi, my husband sold me to this other guy in a non-sexual way. He was like, oh, my wife can help you with your business. And he was like, really, can she? And I was just sitting in the back like, can I? Like, I think I've had way too much tequila at this point, but okay. And then, yes, I met with the guy the next week, and he ended up being my first client after 4 months. And
Wow.
it was once I met with him and I was talking to him, I was realizing, I was like, all of the stuff the experts told me is wrong. Like, I know how to run a business. I was doing that before I went out on my own, and that's what I wanted to do. And like, it was all for them. It was about like this quick money grab. And I'm not about a quick money grab. Like, I want to be successful for life. I don't want to just have money in my bank right now. I want to have like generational wealth forever.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I have to change up what I'm doing. So he was my first paying client in around like month 5, month 6. And by the end of month 6, I'd gone from literally doing no sales to doing $10,000 a month. And it
Nice.
was consistent, and it just grew from there. We went from like 10,000 a month to 10,000 a week, and it just kept growing. And the real key difference was I stopped listening to everyone else. I stopped listening to like
Mm.
what everyone was telling me I was supposed to be doing, and started actually listening to myself and my intuition and being like, okay, this is what I want to sell. This is what it needs to include. This is like what, and that's what when I coach with my clients now, I'm like, my job is to help you figure out what sets your soul on fire. Because if your soul is not set on fire, you don't believe in what you're selling and nobody's buying it.
Right. That's interesting. So you did all that with all those people and it didn't work. And do you think, and you said, and do you think that's because it wasn't what you wanted to do? You're going based on what you thought you should do, and instead you're like, nah, I'm trying, I'm putting work into it's not, or
I feel like it was just such a cookie cutter approach to business,
Mhm.
and business isn't cookie cutter. like any real successful business, you can't just duplicate that model. Like, you talk to anyone, they're like, oh yeah, I have this clothing brand, and then I went and started a fitness wear brand, and I tried to do the same thing and it didn't work, because they're not the same. They're
Yeah.
a completely different clientele. Yeah, they all wear clothes, but like it's, and so the at the core of everything, it comes down to messaging and marketing and branding. It is absolutely everything. And I heard like Janine Ellis, like, who is a huge entrepreneur in Australia. She founded Boost Juice. And she said yesterday, actually, if you can't afford to market, then you can't afford to have a business. And I was like, fact. And she went deeper into it. She was like, you know, you don't have to have thousands, but you have to at least have like $100 or $200 to put into your marketing,
Right.
especially at the start. Because, and I tell people this all the time, like when we build a website, they'll be like, oh, I'm not getting traffic. I'm like, it's not build it and they will come. Like that is
People,
like,
I'm surprised people still think that. It's like that's not how it works. That movie screwed it up for everybody. I think
yeah, they,
yeah, I think I've seen it before and I was a kid, but I need to watch anime. But the whole build and become, I think that mess is still being promulgated or taught to this day, and it's like it's not necessarily true for everything. Sure,
yeah.
certain things, but like it's not how.
And I always explain it to people as in, like, if you had a brochure and you're just standing like in a busy mall, right? And you're just handing your brochure out, how many people are like, no, thank you? And then some people will take your brochure, right? That's fine. Great. How many people actually buy from you from that brochure? That's a website.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
That is a website,
That's a website.
100%.
One
Like,
person that visits your website, and then down there's
yeah. So then I'm like, okay, so if you printed 100 brochures and only one person bought from your brochures, then you need 100 people to make one sale, right? And that's what a website does. If you need to reach more than 100 people, how many sales do you need? Okay, you need 1,000 sales. How many people do we need to get to your website? How much money do you need to spend to get that many people to your website? Like,
right.
and
Exactly.
that's what it is. At the end of it, it's all data, it's all numbers. It's about knowing, understanding, reading all of that information. And that's the key to it. Like, there's no secret to my success, right? I'm not going to be like, you have to work so hard. Like, you actually don't. The secret is being really smart with what you have and understanding, especially in the first stages, that every dollar you invest matters. And it's okay to say, like, I made a mistake. So one of the businesses we own is a cleaning and yard maintenance business. And we got this really great opportunity to do like bus advertising, where it's like a huge advert on the side of the bus. And I was like, yeah, that's really cool. Like, let's do it. And it was obviously like quite a big expense, but
Yeah.
it was like a monthly 12-month contract or something like that. And then after about the first 4 months, I was like, I just don't feel like the return is there. And the areas that the bus travels were actually really booked. So, like, I was like, okay, I feel like that was a bad decision on my part,
Yeah.
like, of going down this avenue. I feel like it was like an ego thing, right? I was like, yeah, I'm on a bus.
And you're not. Yeah, I'm gonna bust. Like, I've never
Yeah, I
really.
felt like it was such an ego driving move. I was like, yeah, that was probably just my ego talking at the time. So then I called them and I was like, look, I just want to get out of my contract. How much is it going to cost me to get out of my contract? And I worked it all out. I was like, yeah, well, we'll still save money long term rather than keep paying.
Yeah.
And you just got to be like, wear it. Just like, yeah, I made a decision. Probably was my ego. Cool. It cost me that much money. Move on. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. But knowing at month 4 or 6 that it was a bad decision, rather than letting it play out till month 12 because I'm locked in a contract. Like, everyone be like, I'm locked into a contract. I'm like, when are you ever actually locked into a contract?
Right.
Like, yeah, I'm like, actually read the fine print, talk to them, try and get out of it. Can you reduce it? Can you do something else? Can you sell it to somebody else? Like, whatever you need to do, like, because that money is money that you then can reinvest in other ways.
Yeah. That's a good point. I feel like some people. That's not been my experience, but some people like they'll keep putting money in something. Like I'm locked in. It's like no, you can get out of it. Just do the numbers, like you said, and see what's going to cost you to get out, because that cost to get out is also could potentially save you a lot of money down the line versus wasting money. I don't think people look at it like that in that
And
front.
like a time thing too. I think when, even if it costs you the same, right, to get out, and you've just got to keep paying for something, emotionally get out, because the time that you're mentally investing in something you know is crap is just draining. It's playing on your mindset day in and day out. So even if it's coming out of your bank account and you cannot get out of it, just be out of it. Don't be like, oh, well, you know, I signed up with this coach and then I really like, but she delivers a workshop every month and then I've got to go and sit with the workshop. I don't like her, but I need to do it. No, you don't. Just stop. Why you just filling your head with stuff that you don't even know, like you've said you don't like just stop. Like, I
Right.
don't understand why we then feel like, oh, well, we've paid for it, we have to use it. I'm like, but you're not using it. All you're doing is ruining your mindset and pulling yourself further behind. Rather than starting right now, you're going to be like, I'm going to start in 6 months' time.
Right. That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, navigating the world of business. I like how you're making it like it's really simple. Figure this stuff out. That's it. It's not like some secret sauce. You mean Billy? There's no secret sauce. You don't have to like work your butt off 70 hours a week and try to hustle and grind your way. It's just boom, boom, and boom. A, B, and C. For the
Yeah,
most part.
you don't have to. I think you always have to hustle, right? I think in business, if you can't sell, then you need to find somebody that can, or you need to be willing to learn how.
Yep.
And I think, to be fair, I think you're either born with selling or you're not. I'm not convinced it's something you can actually be fully taught yet.
Controversial. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
It can be
yeah,
taught. It can be taught. It's just that some people selling is just not their thing. That I agree with. Some
yeah,
people it's like it's not your thing. But I've
no,
I've seen too many stories where people are like they sucked at it, but they wanted it and they got better and they can do it. So it's a skill. Some people naturally have it better than others. So I'll say that.
yeah. What I try and tell people though is like, it's not selling. It's never selling. And if you can, this is why it's really important that what you're doing sets your soul on fire and you
Mhm.
truly believe in it. Because if
Mm.
you believe in something, you will promote it and tell everyone about it, regardless of it, whether they want to do it or not, right?
Yep.
Like if you have this magical coffee cup and you tell everybody about your coffee cup, and then they're like, yeah, I don't see the magic. You're like, but it's magical, right?
It's a coffee cup. Look at it. I pour it and it's still full. Don't you get it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. I want to stop drinking.
Yeah, and but
No.
and it doesn't dull your sparkle
Hmm.
because you care so much about this coffee cup, right?
Okay.
That's how passionate you need to be about your
Right.
business.
Okay. Let's talk about this because you're right, and it's true. When you're really about something, just your energy talking about it, people can sense it. They can feel. They can see it, feel it, and it'll just attract people naturally. And you just do it left and right. Because I was at an event this past weekend, I was talking about credit to some guy, and he was like, "Wow, I'm really passionate about this." I'm like, and I was like, in my mind, I was like, duh. And I was like, oh yeah, of course I am. It was just like a no brainer. But I'm like, oh yeah, people aren't realizing this stuff. It was just weird, like, duh, of course I am. I didn't say that. But you're right. So what do what's your opinion when people say there's because in the business world, world of entrepreneurship, there's your message. Be passionate about what you want. You'll be fine. And I've heard other people, other experts say, forget passion. You just gotta do stuff and sell. And I'm like, what's your take on that? Because some people say no, don't 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 leave with your passion. Try and find your passion when it comes to business. Just find something that works and just go for it. And it's like that's not really fun.
Well, it's tough, right? Because so, like I said, like if you aren't passionate about it, selling wise, like I can, like we have a big joke in my house that I could literally sell sand to an Egyptian, and I believe that I could because I think Egyptian sand is probably the best sand on the planet. But
Well, tell me more about this. Let's go buy some Egyptian
exactly
sand.
right.
Why that
Um,
one?
exactly.
Oh,
So, but so I we own 5 businesses, okay? Now, in the cleaning and yard maintenance business, I'm like totally OCD. I love a clean home. Like I love aspects of that. I have no desire to clean. I'll clean my own house, but to go and clean other people's houses, it's not for me. yard maintenance, like I think I mowed the lawn a couple of times when I was a teenager. Like it's not my area of expertise. It's not my happy place at all, right? So what's important for me in that aspect is to have a business manager in place that is so passionate about driving this business. Like and
Not
she
me.
is.
Them. Right.
She is, and she makes me passionate about driving this business. Like I'll be like, this business is a fucking money draining
Right.
pitfall sometimes. And I'm like, get off the phone. And then I like talk to her and she's just like, we're gonna set this and we're doing this and we've got this many hours next week booked. I'm like, great. She's like, can I put on 3 more staff? I'm like, absolutely.
Go for it. Yes.
Like, cool. And because that's how passionate I am about coaching, right? And public speaking and inspiring and empowering people. That's how passionate I am about that. And that's also how passionate I am about marketing and how passionate I am, like we're building a scheduling app. And I know I'll be really passionate about that because of how much time it will save everyone as a business owner. So there's things in my businesses that I'm super passionate about. And that's where I play, right? That's the areas I'll play in because I know I can help. If you want to start a business where you're not passionate about it, like let's say drop shipping, for example, right? That's cool. You can still find a product that you believe in.
Yeah.
Right? It might be a vegetable peeler. I don't know, but it could be. But if you've sent it to your house and you're like, yes, this is the shit. Like this is the best vegetable peeler out there. You will tell everyone about it.
Yep.
And your marketing you will be like, go hard out. Like I am not like no regrets on this vegetable peeler.
Vegetable peeler.
So this is where it's like,
I love people use these examples and they always use the most odd random thing. And you're like, I see you're going, can you be more realistic? A vegetable peeler. Yes, that's what I'm doing. But you're right. You're right on that.
because like who the hell is passionate about a vegetable peeler? Nobody, right?
You actually
But if
be surprised. I don't know. Someone's going to say,
yeah,
I'm assaulted. I love vegetable peelers. I'm like, all
peelers.
right, not making fun of you, but it would happen.
It was funny actually that I chose vegetable peeler because our favorite vegetable peeler broke. And then I was like, just use the other. I was like, just use the other one. It's literally the same brand. It's the same vegetable peeler. It's just a different color. And then my husband was like, it doesn't cut the same. I was like,
It doesn't cut the same.
I was like, there it is.
Clearly, it's true. It's not the same. You're
Yeah,
right.
it's not. I agree. But so like, but it's the passion in the product, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to be passionate about drop shipping. You don't have to be passionate about Amazon or whatever selling platform you're using, but you do have to be somewhat passionate about that. And if you can't be passionate about it, you need to hire people around you that can. So like as a marketing agency, not every business that walks through my door, I'm super passionate about, right? But the staff are. And I think that's the most important thing is like when we get new clients, I'm like, okay, we'll have a staff meeting and you can see straight away like who's lighting up about what in the room. I'm like, okay, that's your client. Like it's
yours.
going to you because you're going to do the best because you're super passionate about whatever they're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. So, okay. So would you say that for people who at some point in their business, if maybe they're in a business, it's important to hire people who are passionate about either that business or a task or something that you're like, I can't stand this. Find someone else to do it and you'll run with it because it's,
Yeah. So always employ people that are better than you.
Right. Yeah.
Like never employ somebody that does what you do or is like as good as you are. You do get to a stage where you do that, right? So I'm at the stage now where I'm employing people that are as good as me, or I'm training them up to be because they're taking my spot.
Right.
Right. It's at that point where I'm like, yeah, well, you can do all these tasks now. Like I don't even need to do any of that stuff anymore. You can be the new me in that business. It does get to that point, but initially, no. Like initially, you need the best people around you, and those people are people that are passionate about your business, people that are passionate about working with you, that have their own goals and desires as well, and are way better at everything than you are.
Yeah, some people have a hard time with that, but I know myself. I'm not the things I'm like organization on these things, budgeting. I'm like, I'll hire someone else to do things for me. If you're better at doing this, I don't care, go do it, whatever. Some people have a hard time. That's like it's a fear. It's like a it's a fear of lack of control. So you try to control everything and all that
Yeah.
stuff. There's are you familiar with the guy named Dan Martell? He's a
No, I'm
famous
not
entrepreneur.
familiar with anyone.
You're like, of course I'm Billie Sharp. I don't need to. Oh, just kidding.
I just get busy. People are like, do you know this person? I'm like, no.
No, he has a good quote. I have his book called "Buy Back Your Time," and that's what you've been doing, buying back your time. And what he says, it's like, what was the quote? He says, it's like, yeah, it may not be 100% you, but like 80% done by someone else is 100% fucking awesome. And I was like, oh, that's a good point. It's like it
Yeah.
may not be you, but it's 80%. That's 100% awesome. Leads you to go off and free you up to do other things that you want to do, things that you're passionate about. Versus and he talks about in the book about I think it was his brother of his or a friend who when the business he started a business starting off it was fine because the guy's passionate about sales, then it grew, then a guy got like stuff happened and he's trying to do things he wasn't good at, was passionate about, and the business started failing. Then when he focused on sales and hiring people to do everything else, the business went recovered. And I'm like, that's a
Yeah.
good point. It's like it really made me open up and be like, what don't I enjoy doing? What's really lighting me up? Because when you do stuff that lights you up, it comes off. You just naturally do it, and you're not tired at the end of the day. I mean, you'll be tired, but you're like, I want to keep going. And it's like, we got to go to bed. We can do this tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's because you like find stuff that you're super passionate about, and like and I think that's what's really funny and interesting. Like the desk behind me is empty, but Bree sits there and it's so interesting. She's meant to finish work at 1, like every day, and she never does. Like she's like we're so both focused on what we're doing that I forget that she's supposed to leave at 1, and she's just like, oh sorry, it's 1:30, I'll just go now. Like
I'm like,
because
wait, one
she's
thirty?
like so in love with what she's doing. And like that's lunchtime. We haven't eaten, like neither of us have stopped for lunch. So to think that just out of two out of two people are sitting at their desk so in love with what they're doing almost every single day that we don't even break for lunch. We forget we're meant to finish. Like it's
See,
pretty impressive.
that is impressive. Like when you get to the point, that was never me though. I was sort of like they were so focused they forgot to eat. I used to get hangry until I started doing intermittent fasting, and I'm like, no, my body will get to the point where it goes, no, we're hungry. You're stopping. You're not gonna ignore us for a while unless you're fasting.
Yeah.
Fine, but even then, like we're going to take a break. Well, that's a good place to be at, and I think for a lot of people that's hard for them to imagine, to be like, wait a minute, to be so in love and engrossed that you just forget about stuff. Like and people think about that when it comes to having fun, when they're doing the things they want to do with their partner, whatever, movie, but to be engrossed in your work and enjoy it for a lot of people, they're like, huh? How can you be so it's I used to think that too. Like, how is that possible?
But
Really?
that's why I say like you have to set your soul on fire. And like somebody said, like I was doing a public speaking thing the other day, and I asked the room like how many of you, they were all business owners, how many of you love your business, right? And almost everybody in the room raised their hand. And I was like, that is amazing, right? So would you all say like keep your hand up if you feel like your business like sets your soul on fire and there's nothing else in this world that you'd want to do, right? And like almost all of them kept their hand up. And I was like, that is incredible.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then I move on and through the speech. And then I get to this point, I'm like, okay, so I want to know if I gave you $50 million, like you win the lotto overnight, what changes in your life, right? Almost all of them were like, I wouldn't have my business. Or I was like,
Never mind, I got money. I'm good.
no. I was like, oh my God. I was like, but it set your soul on fire, right? No, you're lying to yourself. Like if you this is what I try and tell people. So I'm like, okay, they're like, how do I know if it sets my soul on fire? I'm like, because if you were given money, right, tax-free money, and then you had the option to do something else, would it actually change what you were doing? Would you live in the same town? Would you live in the same type of house? Would you drive the same type of car? Would you want to keep doing the same business? What would you do
Yeah.
with that money? And if you say to yourself, I would move to the other side of America, then you're not happy.
Right.
Like if you say, oh, you know, I like my house and I'd upgrade it, that's fine. That's fine. That's a financial thing, right? That's
Yeah.
fine. If you're like, yeah, I love my car, but I'd love like Iron Man's car. Okay, that's cool. Again, a financial thing. Like it's okay to want more, but if you're like, oh no, I would not invest in any of my business, like I would just sell my business or I would just stop doing it and I would invest in stocks or whatever,
Yeah.
you're not passionate about your business.
Right.
Whereas if I was given $50 million overnight, nothing would change for me, like literally nothing. And it's really interesting because I've always wanted a house with a view of like mountains. And it's the one thing my house doesn't have. It doesn't have this beautiful view of mountains. And my husband was like, well, why don't we go for a drive and find a house with a view of mountains? I was like, okay, yeah, let's do that. So we did. We went for this massive drive and we looked at all the houses that were for sale in areas where we would want to live and with views, right?
Yeah.
And every single one of these houses had spectacular views. But then the backyard, like you couldn't use the land because it just was like a cliff. And I was like, but
Oh,
so I was like, you have all this land, but it's unusable. Like you couldn't have like a vegetable garden or anything like that. Like you could have a small pool, but like it wasn't like a big backyard essentially. And I said to the real estate agent, I was like, so can we like get one with a view and a yard? And they were like, no, like not in these areas because to get the mountain views, you need to be up higher, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay. And we drove back home. My husband's like, you look so disappointed. And I was like, yeah, because I thought I really wanted a view, but I really also want a backyard. So I'm not sure what I want anymore. Right.
mhm.
And he's like, we could sell our house and get a house with a view if you want to. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm down for it. Like, I think I'd rather like a giant slip and slide out the back, like something fun. Like,
Having-
I don't want like this cliff with unusable stuff. And
Right.
I'm like, yeah, so and that's what I'm saying to you. Like, it's if you had all the money, right, and money wasn't an object, what changes? Like, and if it's stuff that you can change now, you need to start. Obviously, like if you're like, oh, well, I actually hate my business and I would sell it tomorrow. You're not going to sell it tomorrow, right? But what you need to do is start creating a plan to change it, creating an exit strategy because you're not going to be happy long term.
Yeah, that's a good point and a good question. If you're getting $50 million right now for your business, what would you do? And it's funny, they were all like, "Oh, I would do something like do something completely different. I would like once let's invest in the business, do these things, pay off some stuff, blah blah blah, make it better or where I want it to be, and then just sit on the rest because I can for a while, just have a good time, enjoy myself." So
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I'm like, literally nothing would change for me. I wouldn't go on more holidays. I wouldn't travel more. I wouldn't like we travel all the time. And this is where I'm like, people like, what do you define as success? And I'm like, you have to be fulfilled in all areas of your life. And for me, that means personal, like self. Health is really important. My relationship with my husband, my family and friends and my businesses. Like they're the areas that they all need to be filled to a level that I'm happy with. And when I do it with people, I always say, like, when you look at health, right, and you're going to give like your health score, like 10 to me would be like athlete health level. Like I'm a professional athlete. I never want to be a 10. And that's okay. Like I'm not like, and I don't have the commitment for a 10 either in a health box. So
you don't want
I'm
to
not
be
out there.
come on, Billy, come on, you can do
Yeah.
it.
It's not my thing. So for me, it might be like an 8, right? Is my top level that I would be like, that is my best self at an 8,
Yeah.
right? So then you're like, okay, well, if I'm a 5, what do I need to do to get to the 8 in that health box, right? Just looking at health and then look at that in your relationship and then look at that. And then people will be like, well, I don't want a husband or I'm a happy single woman that doesn't want to have any children. I'm like, that's fine. But you still have a relationship with someone in your life that fills your cup.
Yeah.
Nobody is happy alone. It
Yeah.
might be your best friend, it could be your mum, And that's the relationship that you spend time and focus on to build. I'm not saying you have to have a happy marriage. I'm saying you have to have someone in your corner that you, because we're humans, we're designed to meet with other humans and to be around them. And there will be someone that you're like, yeah, I love hanging out with that person. And they make me so happy. Even if I'm like an independent single woman that never wants to get married, never wants to have children, I'm all for that. Go you,
Yeah.
right? But you're not doing it alone. Like
No.
everybody's in, I'm independent. I still love to be loved. Everybody wants to be loved. So there'll be somebody that loves you and you're like, yeah, that's the person, that's the relationship that I need to work with.
Yeah, we're all social creatures because it's kind of digressing it, but like it's never been in human history where it was like you see people thrive on their own by themselves. It's not how we're designed. Everywhere in human history, there's been communities, families, cities. Everyone's always together, and this whole idea that like be on your own, you'll thrive. Not exactly. Yeah, be on your own for a little bit to do whatever, but you still need to have relationships with other people, yourself, your family, friends, whomever
Yeah.
it is, because no one thrives by themselves. Truly, if you look at people like this is a great example. Elderly people, when they're at least in the United States, we kind of treat our elderly like crap. Like, all right, once you're working, they get left alone, and without them asking you, they'll just start talking and talking and talking and talking because like no one hangs out with them. Nobody does. Happened
Yeah.
one. This lady was going on and on and on. I was like, I gotta go, but I was like, I think she's lonely. I'm gonna just let her talk and just let it be. You know what I mean? And it's just I'm like, wow, it's a real thing. Like we're not designed to be by ourselves.
And I think like it's important too, because so like in my home, we have my husband's dad lives with us because he lost his life partner in the bushfires in 2019 in Australia. So he moved in with us when that all went down. And then my sister lives with us too. And people are like, does that not get annoying? Like having everyone there all the time. And actually, in our marriage, so we've been married 12 years, we've never lived on our own. We've never not lived with either his family, my family, or had housemates. Like we've actually never been on our own. So it's very interesting to us because we don't know another way. And it is the village aspect, right? So like we only have one child and we have a dog. And then it's like, all right, well, we want to go out to a concert together. There's always somebody here that's like, oh, I'll watch her. I'll watch the dog. I'm like, okay, cool. Like we don't have those restrictions on our relationship because we can.
Mhm.
If we like, oh, we're just going to go away for the weekend, like as a three family, someone be like, I'll watch the dog. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, because we can't take the dog. Great. Like
Yeah.
we don't have these normal restrictions put on us that other people do because we have a village. And your village doesn't have to live with you. And that's what I'm like, people are like, I don't want people to live with me. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. They don't have to live with you, but they have to be people that you're not afraid to call up and say, hey, can my daughter come and stay for 3 nights?
Yeah.
And she's comfortable enough to go and do that. And you're comfortable enough to ask, hey, can I just drop my dog off? And like we have friends that are the exact same. So I was like, can I don't even remember where we were going actually. I was like, oh, can I bring my kid over for like a few nights? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. And then I called back. I was like, can I bring the dog too? And they were like, yeah, of course. I was like, okay. And then we got to where we were going and they were like, you could have brought your daughter and the dog. I would have watched them. I was like, yeah, I know. But like, it's just like, that's the village, right? So, and that's why I'm like, you have to have your own tribe of people
Yep.
in business and life. You can't do it alone. So I always feel like you've got to have 5 people who's your tribe. And those 5 people are somebody that you would call and they would literally drop everything, fly across the world to be there with you, right? If you don't have 5 people, that's okay. What it means is that you have to, relationships in your life should be a focus. So you want to start building, like with friends, new, deeper, non-surface level connection, because that's missing from your life. We all need 5 people that would drop something to be there. And it can be a friend or a family member,
Yep.
right? But they're the people that we turn to because there's going to be times in life, unfortunately, that you need them. And I was just saying to Matt at the start before we started recording that my mum actually had a stroke last week. And she lives 4 hours away from me. And she called me. It was actually my birthday. And she called me and she was like, I don't want you to freak out. Like, I'm in the hospital. This has happened. I was like, okay, cool. Literally, my sister and I, like, we had so much on all week, work, everything. We just dropped everything, rescheduled all of our stuff, just got in the car, drove up there. And then my husband and my daughter drove up the next day. When I got up there, she already had like all of her work colleagues were at the hospital with her. She had
Wow.
like, it was so beautiful. Her friends, like she plays bingo. So like her friends from bingo, like coming and going constantly from the hospital. But I was like, they're the people that are like there straight away for you, no matter what. And when I called some of my mum's really close friends to tell them what had happened, they straight away were like, and they live hours and hours away, would have to get on a plane to be there. They were like, do you need me to be there? I was like, no, I think I got it covered. Like, we're good, but I just wanted to like let you know. But that's her tribe,
Yeah.
right? Like, that everybody, you need those people, because like she recovered really well, but she could have, like, a stroke could mean that she's in rehab for like 6 months, right? And
Yeah.
not been able to come home. So I can't stay there for 6 months. So as a tribe, we would have taken it in turns to support her to come back home. So that's why a tribe is important, because you're going to need them, unfortunately. We all do.
Yeah, and I think having all that support there helped her in recovering faster because there's energy
Yeah.
that's there. When you feel better, and everyone puts energy in there. It's like it has an effect on the person you're all looking at. People don't realize that, right? From an
Yeah.
energy perspective, and having that there, and you need that there. Like it's a gene thing, psychological thing, it's an energy thing. Like you need that. So,
And
yeah,
all the laughter, like my sister and I were at the hospital from like 6 a.m. in the morning till 6 o'clock at night, when they like basically were kicking us out. And like we were laughing and joking all day. And then we'd get back to the car and we were drained. Like, it was so, like, because you're emotionally dealing with like, how sick is she? Like, is she going to be okay? And you're not trying to focus on all of that stuff for her. So it is so emotionally draining, right? And we'd just get home and like have a wine and just be like, yeah, go on to bed, because it was just so taxing on us. But because she was feeling better, right? Because she was like, it's the happiness of the hospital, like everything, because the hospital is a really crappy place.
they're
And
depressing. It's
yeah,
not
so depressing.
clean, but depressing.
Yeah, like, oh,
Chronically, it's
just,
like, ooh, the energy there. It's like, okay, and it's quiet. It's
yeah. And like things happen because there was like a guy, because it's like a public hospital, so all it's just curtains blocking everyone, right? And there was like a guy at the end. The lady beside her was like genuinely thought somebody was coming to kill her. So I felt so bad for this lady. I was like, she's so scared. Like, you could see it in her face, like how scared she was. And she was an old lady, so she couldn't like get up and run away or anything. And the staff had to keep being with her. And then like a few doors down from that, a guy kept like having a heart attack. So they had to keep working on him. So while mum is like in here, you have all of this other stuff going on. And I'm just like, and then in my head the whole time, like, I'm so grateful for health. I'm so grateful for health. Like,
you're being keep them under. We're safe.
yeah. Yeah.
It's
And I think that sometimes like you need those experiences too to be humbled, to be like, oh yeah, my back was sore today. Like, oh yeah, like obviously I sat at my desk too long. It's like, your back's fine. Like,
you can get up, suck it up, you can walk around. Shut up. It's like
yeah, you are fine.
you're okay. Someone had a heart attack today. They're not walking. You know what? I'll
Yeah,
take the hurt back. You're right. It's a good
exactly.
point.
It's just like,
It keeps
yeah,
you in check where you're like, yeah, there's always that where oh I think that's necessary sometimes where in life you do need to not all the time have a comparison of like your scenario with someone else so that you know you're okay, you got it better. You may not like it, may suck, but you can still change it what you want. They're a different point. Do you want that? No, I don't. Okay, great. I'm gonna keep it moving and just focus on what I want from there. There's always that.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. And I'm going to work with a company called Youth Development Services. They're on the other side of town to me, and they basically, like, it's a bunch of kids that have come from disadvantaged homes, or like they've been in juvie and things like that. And I'm going to work with them because I know my story is not as bad as theirs, right? I get that. But I think too, when they can see people that when they're surrounded by people that did come from similar walks of life, they're
yeah.
like, well, what did you do differently? I'm like, well, we were faced with the same choice. I made a different choice. And what I tell people is, I'm like, if you are at rock bottom right now, right? you still get a choice. Even if you're not at rock bottom, you still get a choice. And if you're super successful and you go on a 3-day cocaine bender because you've burnt out yourself, right? Because these things happen. People get so burnt out. And then they're like, then they think to themselves, I've let everyone down, I'm not good enough, like all those things. No, you just made a bad choice. And now you get to make a different choice, right? You get to choose. Do I continue to take 3-day cocaine benders, or do I go and work on myself? All of the money that I spent on the cocaine, I could have put into a retreat that might have actually solved my emotional trauma. Right. So
Exactly.
that's your choice. You get to make that choice.
We're not advocating for 3-day cocaine benders. We're just saying as an example. Put it out there. She's
It
saying I could do
happens.
that. Yeah, it does happen. No, one of my friends, I think it happens. Well, no, let me say this. One of my friends used to work, um, one of the banks here. It was Chevy Chase. Now it's Capital One. But on the higher levels of like corporate America and things like business and sales, a lot of them do like drugs and cocaine and stuff. I'm like, really? He was like, because the pressure and the energy stamina to keep going. I was like, whoa, no wonder they tend to have a lot of issues. Then when you're done, you're just like, and then it's like, no, do it again. We need more. We need more. Just the constant
Yeah.
push. That's a real thing. So that happens in life. Like, and sometimes I think the stress gets people where they're like, no, screw this 3-day bender, boom, boom, boom. And then they're like, that's a lot of damage and energy on the body. Good God.
And then, but and the emotional toll it takes for them, because those people have sat up there for like years trying to hold everything together, holding their family together, holding that business together, holding all of it holding it all together. And then when they go and actually release, right, in a negative way, they are so guilty on themselves, because
Mm,
they're like, how do I come back from that? I just haven't shown up to work for 3 days. I haven't called anyone. I haven't told anyone where I am. Like, how do I come back from that?
yeah.
And it's at those times that I see really successful people start to go down a bad path, because they don't know how to come back from that. I'm like, no, you got a choice, right? We all make bad decisions. Some affect others, some don't. But you still get to make the choice now, whether you want to keep going down this path, or it's like face up to work and be like, I fucked up. I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm going to be better,
Yeah.
and be better. Like,
Yeah.
that's your choice. And
No,
sometimes owning it is the hardest part.
yeah, and the reason being is because, and here's my take on this. This has become a deep, deep like podcast episode. It's our business and money channel now about personal responsibility and cocaine bend. Cocaine bend, 3-day cocaine bender. Yeah. I'm gonna tell this Billie Sharp, the 3-day cocaine bender, don't do it. I'm like, what? What is it with cocaine? Everything.
Yeah.
No, it's because, and let me ask this, Billy. If anyone else that's listening is watching this on the replay live or whatnot, growing up, now you and I have to have a different idea of responsibility. Growing up as a kid and all stuff, if someone came to you and asked a question, who's responsible? What came to mind?
I actually didn't know anyone that was responsible when I was growing up, which is really scary for me, because um I would have said I was.
Right.
Even from like a really young age, I had to take care of my brother and sister and things
Yeah.
like that because my mum worked. Um, but I would have either said myself or my mum, depending. If she was there, I might have answered like my mum, and
Mhm.
if she wasn't there, I would have been like
Okay.
me.
All right. No, I asked the question. I scripted the question. If something happened, right? Like you got in trouble, okay?
Yeah.
And they asked the question, like if you and someone asks who's responsible for this, when that happens, and growing up too as well, did it come to mind of like, well, I'm responsible, I'm going to create it, I can change it, it's going to suck, but hey, I'm in control of my life? Or was it, shit, if I say I'm responsible, I'm getting in trouble, I can't admit this, blah, 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 blah. Make sense? Because what
Yeah,
happened,
yeah.
we're
So
all, yeah, that's what I
yeah,
meant.
for
Like,
me, it was me. It was me. I remember I actually shoplifted when I was like 10,
oh, wow.
right? And there was like a group of girls at the local shop, and they were shoplifting. They'd been shoplifting all day. And then I went
Okay.
down later, and I was like, met them at the shop, and they're like, I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, we're shoplifting. I was like, okay, cool, I'll shoplift. I've always wanted this really cool putty from like aisle 10 or whatever. And and so I did. I was like, yeah, shoplifted it. And then the police came to our house, and my bike had been stolen. And my mum was like, "Oh, great, you found her bike." And I was like, "Oh, fuck, no, they haven't." And then,
You're like, no, it's not the bike, mom. It's
and then like the police told mum like I'd stolen, and mum was like she wouldn't do that. And I could hear, I was in my room, but I could hear everything. I came out, and mum was like, "Tell them like you didn't steal anything." And I was like, "No, I did." And
ah,
she
yeah.
and she was like, "Who else did?" And I was like, it was just me." Like I was like, "It was just me." And then the police said, "Well, we know that there was other girls involved." And mum was like, "Who were you with today?" And I was like, "It was just me. It was just me. No one else was involved." And then I refused to dob on my friends. I was like, "No, like I'm
Oh,
already in
you're.
trouble here. I'm not going to get them in trouble." So
I'm
it
not
turned out
snitching.
the
I'm not
police,
snitching. That's what you're doing. I'm not snitching. I'm keeping it. It's just me.
I was like, it's just me. Like, I'm already the one that's going to be in trouble. And then, but it turned out the police had already been to their houses
Ah,
and spoken to their parents. I didn't know that though. I was
right.
just like, it's just me. Um, and then my mum said to me, "So what did you steal?" I went and got it. It was like 6 things. And then she said, like, does she need to come to the police station? Blah, blah, blah. And they were like, no, like, the shop's not pressing charges or anything like that. And mum said, well, I'd like for her to come down so that she is scared, like, so she knows what jail's going to be like if you shoplift, right? And I was
Your
like,
mom. And at the time you're like, what? And you're like, no, I'm teaching you good.
I was 10 years old.
No, I'm scared of you now. You're like, no, mom. Like, no, you're going. You're gonna do it.
So like literally, yeah, we went down there. They did the full police interview, like showed me if they had have pressed charges, I would have what cell I would have had to go to, like all of this stuff. Um, and then my mum made me write an apology letter to the store owner and take everything back to the store, even if I'd opened it and played with it, and pay for it with my own money out of my savings.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a very like,
Humbling experience.
yeah, I was like, so I remember being so nervous. And the guy, when I like paid for everything and I gave him the letter, he's like, well, you can keep the stuff, like, because you've paid for it.
Uh.
And mum's like, no, she can't.
You're like, damn it.
I was like, I didn't even want it at that point. I was like,
He can give you paper.
no.
He's like, no. That's funny. Okay, so yeah, you're one of the few rare that I was like, I'll take it. I'll take the responsibility. But a lot of us grew up. That's the reason why I
Yeah.
going back to earlier, so many people have a hard time taking responsibility for what they do is because we grow up thinking, and I remember as a kid, oh shit, if I'm responsible, I'm in trouble. I don't want to admit to it, even though I would get caught or admit to it. We don't take that as if I'm not responsible, I'm the one creating it all, then I can change it. We're taking it as shit, I'm getting in trouble, I'm not safe. So therefore, I don't admit to anything. This is why you see so many
Yeah.
people online and nowadays saying, I wasn't my fault, it's their fault. It's because no one feels safe saying it was me because they think if they admit it, they'll get in trouble and something terrible happened. And that's not the case. And really, responsibility is your ability to respond. And I'm like, that's a better way of looking at it versus who's
Yeah.
responsible. You're in trouble. And it's like, nah, but that's the thing, you know?
And that's like, so my daughter is like blame everyone else, like, or find a reason why it was not her, right? She is the polar opposite to me. And she's 8, and it's such a struggle at the moment because like for us, I'm like, just don't lie about it. Like if you just tell the truth, you get into less trouble. It doesn't drag out. You get to release that bad feeling inside of you. Yes, you're going to feel bad straight away now, but then so it's about teaching them now too, because you don't want them to become adults that can't take responsibility for their actions, right? So, and for her, it's so hard. Like she knows that she's lying to me. I know that she's lying to me. And I'm like, I know you're lying. You are going to get in more trouble if you don't stop lying. And she literally says, I just feel so yucky inside and I can't help myself. So she has the self-awareness to know what's happening, but her little brain is like, I don't want the
conflict.
punishment.
I want the punishment. I feel terrible. Someone can be
Yeah.
photographer. Ah, it's like you can't do that. Jeez.
Yeah.
It's
So, but
not
it's about identifying those feelings too and being like, okay, well, would you feel yucky if you tell the truth? Or are you going to feel yuckier for longer? And then eventually I'm going to find out anyway, and then you're going to get in more trouble than if you just tell the truth straight away.
And she's like, don't I got a choice, but I'll choose the one with less pain and go with that one. Hopefully. Hopefully she does.
No, she'll say she's like she will be like and I think you know what I think it is that she doesn't want to disappoint. And I'm like, you're not disappointing me. You're actually
Yeah.
disappointing me by lying to me. Like
Right.
that disappoints me more than anything else. I'm like, I don't care what you've done. I couldn't give a shit about what you've done. But I really care that I'm not creating a safe space for you to come and tell me the truth. That's what I care about. Like, why do you feel like you can't tell me?
Yeah, that there's nothing like as a child growing up, your parents can be mad at you and scare you, but when they said, "I'm disappointing you," that was like the worst thing. You're just like, "Oh no." It's like you we took it as we were losing like their love and acceptance. I'm
Yeah.
disappointing you. And that's why I think for little kids we forget that scares them even more than you being angry at 'em.
Yeah, and like I've never said that to her, but I must have like a facial expression that like puts it off. I haven't seen it yet, but I must have this face like I'm disappointed in you because
Yeah.
that's how she takes it. I'm like, yeah, okay. But it's like really interesting and things that like you do have to, and if you know as a child, like your parents weren't supportive of those actions, and this is where like my mum's always funny. I saw a psychiatrist and a psychologist for a really long time, and she used to hate that I went there because she was like, they just blame me for everything, right? It's my fault for everything that's wrong in your life. And I was like, it's not, but you can have the best parent in the world that, but there'll still be some type of trauma, right?
Yeah.
And it's underlying that it's happened. Um, and it's about finding those things and reworking on them yourself to be better for those things and then not do them to your own children.
Yeah. Because you'll just do it to them. It's like a continuation pattern of just generational trauma, and you do it to them, and you'd hear from one of your parents, and you pass on to them. They hear from aunt. It's like it's a long line of like the worst game of telephone of all time, if you want to look at it
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, exactly. And like silly things like as a kid and as an adult, I've always had really bad nightmares, like terrible nightmares.
Mm,
And my daughter suffers from them as well. And she's now seeing a psychologist for it. And literally within like the first 2 sessions, the psychologist was like, well, when she wakes up after having a bad nightmare, do you guys talk about it? And I was like, no. Who wants to talk about that? She
right.
was like, well, it's staying in your brain because you're not talking about it. Like you're not, she's not getting it off her chest. Like whatever's happening, it's just stuck in her head because she's not talking about it. So every day, if she wakes up and she's had a bad dream or a good dream, just talk about how her sleep was and what happened in the dream. And if there's like, if she was trapped, how could have she got out of it? Like give her scenarios that could have played out differently. So she has those tools in the nightmare. And
Mm,
I was like, you're telling me I didn't have to have nightmares for 33 years? Like, great.
yeah. Now you know. Didn't
Yeah.
have to have them. Like that's thanks for letting me know this now. Oh, great.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Finding
But
the
it's
age
those,
even at
it's all those
33.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's those things. So this has been really good. It's been the longest episode so far. To bring it to land the plane, bring it to a close. What's like, I guess, how could you end this? Like, what's one thing you could share with people that would have that would one piece of advice or something that you feel is important for people to know right now, whether it be for them in business or any area of life?
Yeah. So there's probably like, I think there's some things that successful people do. And now that like I'm literally now surrounded by millionaires and billionaires on a daily basis. Like they're in my friend group, like we have group chats. Um, and there's something we all do, which I find really interesting. One of them is we only focus on what we can control. So if it's like out of our control, it's not something we do. It's not something we put time and energy into. It's like I can't control that. Move on,
Yeah.
right? So and it's funny that I say it that way because the second thing that I want to say is the timing. So by the time we've made decisions and actually actioned those decisions, people haven't even thought about making the decision, right? So you're so fast in what you're doing
Yeah.
all the time. And we play a game called worst case scenario at our house. This is how we do it. So if like doesn't have to be serious stuff either. But if you find like you're a procrastinator on decision making, or like, I'll put that on tomorrow's list and I'll look at it. No, no, no. Like, you just need to make the call. Like, you just have to make the choice.
Yeah.
We play out what's the worst thing that could possibly happen, right? So I always love to use a really dumb example of my child being like, okay, do you want baked beans or ice cream for dinner? Right. And then if you choose ice cream, like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You'll probably get a sugar high, you'll have a bad night's sleep, you'll be grumpy tomorrow. Like, it plays out like that. If you have baked beans, you know you're going to have a good night's sleep. You'll be a little bit less satisfied, but you really love baked beans anyway. Like, you know, so the worst case is you're going to have a really bad night's sleep and you're going to be grumpy tomorrow, or you're going to be a little bit unsatisfied. Which one do you want to go with, right? And then she'll make a choice. And if she can't make the choice quick enough, we start counting down from 3. So we're like 3, 2, okay. And by 1, you have to have a choice.
Right.
If you don't have a choice at 1, you're not having dinner. I'm like, go make a sandwich, don't care.
Right, right.
But we do the same to ourselves. So I'm like, because nobody else is waiting around. Like, your big competitors that you are actually directly competing with at the end of the day aren't waiting for you to make a choice. Right. So you have the timing and how you make those choices is so important.
Right.
So if you move quickly and only focus on the things you can control, you only are ever moving forward.
I like that.
And that's what I notice about all of us. We all do it in our own way, but it's a similarity amongst all of us. Yeah.
Right. I like that. It's a good takeaway. It's good.
Yeah.
And with that being said, Billie, how can people reach you? What's the best way for them, especially those of us in the States, and you're in Australia? It's like 2 different worlds. We're like worlds apart, 2 different time zones. I think, what is it, like Thursday for you guys now?
Yes, it is 7 a.m. Thursday for me right now.
Yeah, right now it's 5:15 p.m. Wednesday, so it's literally like almost a 24-hour difference.
Yeah, I'm already ahead of you. No,
no, exactly. It's just like, I'm already, look, you got to catch up with us. I'm like, damn, come on now. But remember, what happens here first happens to you out. So actually, we're in the lead. You're catching up. That's how it works. America. Yeah.
So you can find me just billiesharp.com.au. I have a profile on Facebook. That's a normal profile, right? Not like a page or anything like that, just a normal profile. That is me. I don't have multiple profiles for whatever reason. I just have one, because what you see is what you get. I don't hide anything, because I feel like there has to be a level of transparency in this world.
Yeah.
And I don't wake up every day feeling motivated and like I'm a winner. Like, that's just not how it goes. So yeah, literally woke up like this.
Oh, it's late in the day. It's like, no, I woke up and my rest sucked. I'm tired. It's like, what? Yeah. I'm human.
Exactly. So like, and there's those things, and that's really important for me to share with everyone. So I have that. So I always just tell people, like, find me there, follow me, come be my friend. I do have a free Facebook group, which you'll find there anyway. And that's where I really hang out. Like, I am on Facebook all the time in groups, giving advice for free. I'm like, get into my DMs. Like, I'm not this like person that's on a pedestal and won't communicate with people. Like, because coaches are like, don't DM me because you've got to pay for that advice. I'm like, no, like, if it's a simple question, I'll help you answer it. Like, I would rather that than like you be stuck on something. Like, that's who I am. And at the core of everything I do is I want to help people. So if that means you get to follow me, be my friend, comment, and I answer a question, or you message me and I answer a question for you, great. If you get anything out of this episode, one takeaway, I've done my job today. Like, I don't need a sale from this. I don't want a sale from this. I just want you to feel inspired and empowered enough that's like, if those 2 people online can do it, I can do it too.
There you go. And one thing I want to make sure everyone to realize that it's Billie spelled Billie, not Bly. So Billie sharp.com. Because
and Sharp with no E. It says SHARP.
Oh, that's a good point too. Yeah, sharp with no E. Because sometimes it's sharp with the E. I'm like, why? Because English language is stupid. It's silent, or it's French, or whatever translation comes from. It's like the word night with the sword. The K is silent, but nighttime is dark. Make it
exactly.
make sense. How did we learn this language? I look back, I'm like, can I ever teach this to somebody? No, I screw them up. Well, there. It- one means ownership, one means people, another one's I don't know. I have no
Yeah,
idea.
I still get where and where wrong. Like where. Like I get it wrong in the spelling all the time. And it's really bad now because my daughter's like constantly over my shoulder reading stuff on my phone. And she's like, Mom, you're doing it again where you're spelling it wrong. I'm like, how do you know? Like,
You
how
are.
do you know that I'm doing it wrong? I don't even know that I'm doing it wrong. Bloody hell.
What
But
happened?
yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, Billy, I thank you for
Okay.
being on. I'll have you on again. Definitely gonna have a part two because we can go on for hours.
Yes. Yes, I love Matt. It's great. And I think like everything that you stand for and the just the realness and rawness of the type of messaging that you're getting out there is so important. And that's the type of stuff I love being a part of.
Thank you. Yeah, keeping it real and authentic. Obviously, real and raw. I mean, real, raw, and authentic. Like, so
Yeah.
that's what I do. Credit repair. Come out with a one on. I'm a coach myself, certified life coach as well. So it's like, just got to be who you are, and then people come to you. At the end of the day, it's like that's what you do. That's what people do business with. It's you, not so much the brand or the corporation or business. It's you at the center of it. So
Yeah,
my
exactly.
takeaway. You're welcome, everybody. Or whatever. Cool. All right, Billy. Thanks for being on. Appreciate it.
Thanks.